Warren, can you start by telling me your name and where do you live?
I'm Warren Skulrud. I live in Shawnigan Lake, which is on the traditional territories of the Cowichan tribes out here. I love where I live, and I want to see it preserved. You know.
Why are you passionate about bringing back the rail on the island?
There was a number of things that actually brought me into a position where I was advocating for the rail. I'm not really an activist. I never have been. But I used to go to Savory School in Langford when I was a kid, because I was born and raised on Vancouver Island. And there's a bridge that goes over top of the railway there as you're on your way into the school. So I used to go over that and watch the train go by. I've been on the old Dayliner. You know, I was so young then, I was more fascinated by the train than I was the views, but I do remember a few areas that I saw that I was just amazed at, right? So it's left an impression on me for that. But so the way I got brought into this whole rail business, I mean, it started off with just before it, this girl with a trailer wanted to ask me if she could park it on my lawn because she couldn't afford to drive further away from work and couldn't afford a place to live. And unfortunately, I had to say no because of the CVRD rules here wouldn't have allowed that. And I've got CVRD living just down the road here anyway. But it left an impression on me about how much the travel was costing people, right? And I know I've seen my own fuel budget going up all the time. But a friend of mine, Paul Robinson, he was working for the Vancouver Island Transportation Corridor Coalition. He's an old family friend of mine from way back when. Popped up on his thing that he was pushing a petition last year to save the railway. And, you know, it's near and dear to me, that railway. Like, I actually take a motorcycle out and I see different spots that the railway is. And it's just out in the middle of nowhere because it goes away from the city, then back, and away from the city and back. You know, I saw that, and he told me in private chat that they were kind of stuck at about 1,467 supporters, and he asked me if I could help because I've been a computer nut since I was knee-high to a grasshopper there, 11 years old, I think. You know, funny thing is I discovered computers on the Toronto subway going from Downsview, Ontario into the Yorkdale Mall. That's where I was exposed to them. But so anyway, he asked me if I could maybe use some of my skills to help out to get the petition up. And I've been wanting to practice my video and imagery skills for a long time, but without an application, there's really not any reason to do that. So, you know, I threw down $100. I set up a website on a big server because I didn't know how controversial this thing was going to be, and started putting out posts about it and answering to all the misinformation there is about the railway on this island. Like, there's been a trail group that's been trying to undermine the whole thing, and it's disappointing, you know. So that's how I, you know, got into the whole advocating thing. I'm a victim of my own success because when I did start pushing those explanations out, well, we pushed that petition up to 10,400 in the end. I was told I was privileged enough to have a discussion with Larry Stevenson of the ICF there, the CEO, and he told me he was very thankful because at 5,000 the BC government started talking to them, and at 6,000 the federal government came in, and of course that's important because there's reconciliation that's required around the ENN. So the petition right now at the House of Commons website that I see, up until January 11. That's right.
What do you hope to achieve with it? What do you think it could change?
I think people need to be more aware of what's happening here. They've been trying. So can I describe the ICF just for a minute, because it really gives some context to this, right? So the ICF CPR and Rail America were leaving the island and they were going to sell it off in parcels. So the Cowichan Nation actually started talking to the other nations and the regional districts, and they formed a non-profit and actually obtained rights to the railway. So the 14 First Nations that pass it through own it, as well as the 5 regional districts, public system. And ever since 2005, when they took charge of the railway, they've been asking to get funding to fix it. And so that kept going on, and when that occurred, and they were very thankful to get that process started. Then the land was returned to the Sonawas, which is a First Nation up in the news, right? Now, I'm not going to speak to how tough reconciliation talks can be, and maybe some pauses and show of conviction on certain things that they want done, because the provincial government released a First Nations engagement document that talks about the things that they're asking for, these accommodations they want, like some water mitigation in some area, even some row moves, right? The Island Corridor Foundation, that team, there's 6 First Nation directors and 6 regional district directors, and they came together and put together a business case working with Southern Rail of Vancouver Island, which is the company that's delivering propane on the railway still up in Nanaimo. So they've got a shared vision of what the railway should look like, they've been trying to get funding ever since. And it just, to me, in this day and age, we've got UNDRIP going on. They need to take this seriously. Like, the UN literally brought Vancouver Island into Confederation, like as a part of BC and Canada. And I get that the Supreme Court has gone through it and said that they're not, obligated to anything there. I'm not looking for anything there anyway. We just want to get this railway back up and running because it makes so much sense for the island. I can get into like all the beneficial factors of it if you like. So,
do you think a petition could actually change anything?
So I think it's going to raise it. It's going to be spoken to in the House of Commons. So there's going to be a lot more political awareness about what's going on here. That's the biggest thing for me. Like, we've had the petition before and they brought it there, but I think that if the political environment in there, I know it's a bit of a firestorm up there these days, but if we can get, the sensible ones that are in there that are sitting back, just wanting to get stuff done, see what's happening and hear about what's happening, maybe they'll put a little bit more pressure on the federal government to get this maybe be a little bit more giving or something on the negotiations to make this happen, because the amount of money they're asking for to restore the railway, it's only $431 million. And there's other people that say it's much more, but that's if you put that 97% contingency on it. That got waived because railway restorations are just so well known. It's not rocket science. This is a giant overdue maintenance action.
Would you use it?
Oh yeah. So I bought my house up in Shawnigan Lake in 2009. At that point, I was in uniform, right? And I had a family, so we had to have 2 cars. Where I could have just rode my bike to the station, got on the train, and then got off at the Naden back gate and rode into work every day. But instead, I had to drive the Malahat back and forth. And just that one hot spot alone of military personnel, they say there's like 3,100 employees that work there. And the Aberrolls Road, when you're leaving that base at the end of the day, is just a nightmare.
Okay, so what would be first? Are you related at all with the Vancouver Island?
I have no affiliations with anybody. I have not being paid to do what I do. It's actually been, it's on my line of credit getting a little bit heavy now. I did that on purpose. I did not want to be influenced by another party. I wanted to take a look at this from a citizen's point of view. Rational, I have no interest in it point of view. There's no shares or anything. What I get is what I could have used since 2009. And, my daughters getting she's a teenager now. She's got a car, and it's literally sitting in my front yard right now, ready to go for repairs already. Like, she's only had it for like 6 months. No, I guess a year now. And it disturbs me that, like, you get a whole bunch of people out there. You know, I'll talk about millennials if you want to classify them as that. But I mean, I just think anybody that's with a mind for the planet. They don't want to have to own a car, or they want to minimize their kilometers using a car. And on the island, you know, the railway corridor goes all the way from Courtenay down through Parksville, Nanaimo, Duncan, Langford, into Esquimalt, Victoria. And it also goes from Parksville over to Port Alberni, where there's constant, coincidentally, no even transit bus service through to Port Alberni from Parksville there, and there's no transit service north of Parksville either. Not public service. We've got one cancer hospital that's down in Victoria, and if you're an elderly person, my mom just actually had her last chemo appointment 2 days ago. If they've got to go from anywhere up island down to the cancer center, it costs them a fortune every time, and they're going to have to stay overnight. They're not going to be in a condition to go back up. Whereas, a little shuttle could take them from the end of the railway to the cancer center. They could get their treatment, get back on the train where they don't have to do anything when they're on their train. They're not being jostled around either. They can get up and stretch their legs or go use the accessible bathroom. So it would really help a lot of people on the island. Yeah. So I really hate for this to fail.
Are you hopeful it can work and it should work?
I think there's a lot of grind work being done right now behind the scenes. I mean, this is backroom stuff. This is nation to nation talk. I've heard that Indian Affairs is actually out here now, is going to be talking to them. So that's a good sign as well. So if we can just, I want to get these numbers up in the petition, just because, when they're reading out something in the House of Commons and it's got, the certification level of 500 signatures, it means one thing. But if you go in there with some, heavy numbers, what we've got so far, just on my ability to get it out there, I'm just a guy. I don't have the budgets that, these that you guys would have to get awareness out there or anything like that. So, what are we at now? Like 57 or 5,600, something like that on that one. And there's also a change org petition I started earlier than that, and it's up to 6,700. So yeah, I really hope that Alistair McGregor there of the NDPs, I think he's going to be the one to read it. He has spoken to the railway before in the past, and he did it efficiently and well. And so I was grateful that he took the petition on, because an MP had to actually accept it, right? And they don't necessarily have to be the one that speaks to it in the House, but I think Alistair will.
Do you want to add anything on that topic, Warren?
I'm sorry?
Do you want to add anything?
The railway there's freight to be had, freight revenue. This is a big point actually about the freight revenue. In the Salish Sea, or most, a lot of people know it as the Georgia Strait, they're putting restrictions on freighters now. They can't wait longer than 2 weeks in there, or they have to be directed elsewhere. They're waiting 2 weeks and longer, which increases freight coming in from, overseas or wherever. If it's going to sit there for a while, that's going to up the rates, because that costs money to have those freighters sitting there in the first place. Port Alberni is a natural massive fjord off the west coast of the island, and they're not only are they wanting to build a transshipment hub out there, but they already have a bunch of berths where they could be accepting those in. Well, the railway goes right there. They've got quite a significant yard there worth of rail. And they could be, those freighters that are going to be sitting forever, instead of doing that, they can take it ashore, drop it on the rail, funnel it over to the Wilcox Yard onto a C-span ferry over to Vancouver. On the rails, off it goes. So, you know, and it also would supply the island directly that way as well. Plus, we've got the port of, you know, DP to Nanaimo, which is a transshipment hub, or short sea shipping. So there's income to be generated there to maintain the tracks into the future easily. And then there's a couple of other distribution points along the line, like Top Shelf Feeds used to get all of their bulk feed by rail, but now they have to transload it at the Wilcox Yard into a truck to get it there. That's more money. You know, so there's income to be generated from just restoring this track. It's just fix the tracks and then we're good to go. Maybe some safety, more seismic updates. But when you're looking at, you know, I like the SkyTrain, don't get me wrong here, but if you look at the Surrey-Langley extension they're just doing now, it's 16 kilometers long, $4 billion. And, you know, the ICF's only asking for $431 million. I think with the accommodations, it's going to be more, which is why I upped the petition to $1 billion. But the island is long overdue for a proper investment in our railway because with our mountainous landscape, valleys and rivers and everything else, the beauty that makes up Vancouver Island, we will never have a railway again. Like, not ever. They would have to expropriate property, which would cost a fortune, and then the amount of destruction it would take to build that. When you're thinking about that, now think of that as a second highway. You know, we've got a means right now to reduce the pressure on our highways and see, can we put that off for a while and maybe develop this other way out so that we're not expanding out into the forest and destroying what's beside the roads already. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Warren.
Oh, and just a little last point there. The petition is on ourcommons.ca. And if you search for rail, it's the only one in there. So it's easy to find. Number is E4576. So I just hope that everybody, any Canadian can support this. I would love to see a lot of participation. We'd like to have, you know, similar lines like you guys have out east there. The REM is fantastic. You know, the O train, and then in Vancouver they've got the West Coast Express, and the West Coast Express is almost identical to what we're trying to do on the islands. Ours is longer, but actually, if you look at where that railway goes, the catchment is about the same. You know, we're not spread out all the way along and, you know, and out like this, like they are there. The island's all just a shoestring of people. So really hoping we get the support. And I appreciate the help from anybody that can sign it.
Thank you so much, Warren. Have a good day, and I will send you the article when it's up.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye now.